While Democrats celebrated the No King's Day protests this weekend, they may not be getting the same enthusiasm from young voters. A focus group of young voters in the key swing state of Pennsylvania shows some of the problems, like one Democrat saying her generation does not go out and vote in local elections, while an independent voter identified herself as pretty out of touch when it comes to the midterms, adding she doesn't remember learning much about them. Joining us now to discuss, Fox News contributor Mary Katharine Ham. Hey, MK, good to see you.
Hey, how's it going?
So this is a problem when it comes to the local election. But sure, we're seeing it differently in New York City, a much more progressive state. But in those swing states, this could be a huge problem for Democrats, right?
Well, I think the first question is, when you look at the No Kings rally, it looks like it was fairly successful. There's a lot of people there. Does it look like a young rally? Does it look like a young rally to anyone? So those young voters, I don't think you're reaching with this particular message. And it's interesting because if you look at it as an analog to the Tea Party, right? The Tea Party did get a lot of people involved, but it specifically got a lot of people involved in those local elections, in taking over their areas of voting, in being more volunteers in that area. And I'm not sure that that's translating with No Kings. Also, notably with the Tea Party, what did the Tea Party do first? It started knocking off people in primary elections, which I think is probably what's going to happen with Democrats, where they're going to, lift up a bunch of probably too progressive candidates in some areas of the country to win a general election, and may succeed in these primaries. So in the short term, we'll see what kind of damage or success No Kings can do.
It's such a good point, because as I was looking, not just in New York, but all the other cities where the protests were happening, this seemed like a demographic that the Democrats already have. One of the demographics that they're struggling with, I'm not sure this comment from AOC is helpful. Let's watch it.
When they talk about Republicans and their success online, they have been successful because they have also been very clear, especially digitally, about what they believe. And they are able to radicalize and target and exploit a generation of young boys, in particular, away from healthy masculinity and into an insecure masculinity that requires the domination of others.
I mean, you think they're going to come and support you now after that?
Yeah, no, here's the thing. Here's the thing Democrats did that really helped Republicans, is they spent 20 years calling men toxic. And that's what men heard. And then young men in particular had every milestone taken from them during the COVID era. And then they were told by Democrats that they were toxic for having any complaints about it. And those guys were like, I don't know, it doesn't seem like you guys like us. And so they went the other direction. Now, there are pockets of the internet, of course, that do turn into very toxic masculinity. That can be a real thing. But the fact that the Democrats failed with this demographic by telling them they don't like them is not actually Republicans' fault. They just ended up benefiting from it by saying, hey, you know what we like? The UFC and dudes.
So true. Meanwhile, here in New York City, it looks like Mamdani is going to be the next mayor of New York. A lot of pushback, though, from a lot of people in the community over this photo with Siraj Wahhaj. This is what he had to say. I had the pleasure of meeting with Imam Siraj Wahhaj, one of the nation's foremost Muslim leaders and a pillar of the Bed-Stuy community for nearly a half a century. He's a radical. This amount, and it's been known for a while. Some politicians have tried to avoid him in any photos, but not Mamdani.
Yeah, you should probably avoid a terror apologist in the city of New York, a guy who was associated with the Blind Sheikh. That should be a guy you should avoid, but I don't think that Mamdani is interested in avoiding him, because he's wooing the pocket of voters that might be sort of radicalized and terror apologists themselves that this guy represents. And I do have to say, part of Mamdani's success comes from, again, and you'll see a pattern here, the Democrat Party's failure in lifting anyone up who's better than Andrew Cuomo, right? And they also haven't lifted up anyone who's doing the oppo research that they should be doing on this guy, who has a wealth of disqualifying positions and associations, this one probably included.
He responded to this photo and the pushback by saying this, Mamdani. The same imam met with Mayor Bloomberg, met with Mayor de Blasio, campaigned alongside Eric Adams. And the only time it became an issue on national attention was when I met with him. That's because of the fact of my faith and because I am on the precipice of winning this election. How do you feel about that?
Well, he's also the only one in those. He's also the only one in those three who can't condemn, globalize the Intifada,
right,
and couldn't say the other day on Martha's show that he wanted Hamas disarmed. So, like, there is a slight difference there, and I would argue that Republicans probably had issues with it in the past as well.
That's exactly right. Here's the president reacting.
What do you think of Mamdani's photo with the 93 World Trade Center bombing?
Yeah, no, it's a shame. Look, the Mamdani thing is it's a disaster waiting to happen. We can't have a communist in charge of a great, supposedly free enterprise, kind of a representative city. So I think it's, if you have a communist mayor, I think it's going to be very tough for him and for the city.
I mean, at its core, though, it should make people very uncomfortable that you have radical Islamists that are gearing up behind it. I mean, his father's past words in his book talking about suicide bombers. You know, him saying globalize the Intifada, being in the protests, leading some of them that are, you know, holding hostage students at Columbia University. It's not just one element, it's all of it together, right, MK?
Right. If he were denouncing very clearly all of that stuff and saying, this is my faith, this is what I believe, and also all these things are very bad, sure. But he's like, also, all these things are cool. And that makes a huge difference in the candidate. And Trump is right. It is a disaster waiting to happen. But I do think that Democrats here, and unfortunately New York City, is suffering by the fact that no one came up who was better and more talented than this guy, because what he does is he has the ability to talk, which can paper over a lot of these really bad things. And you're going to see the results, unfortunately, later.
It's so true. Some people got out too late. There was never a quality candidate to go against him. And as a result, all the radicals coalesced behind him. It's stunning. We'll see what happens in New York. Thanks, MK.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.